A few years ago, I developed the MDV Plus One, and it has gained a decent amount of popularity. But just like anything else, it gets compared to other blades and features from those other blades. One of the questions that comes up is why we haven't made the top false edge a second edge so it is double edged so you can cut backwards. And then the other question that usually comes up comes from the tactics that I use when I implement any type of edge weapon. And that usually revolves around as soon as I have somebody utilize an edge weapon, all of the actions with the edge weapon tend to be what others would call, well, murdery. And so in this video, I want to cover both of those topics and just give my explanation on that. So let's get into this video now. All right, so for the very first topic, which is why this false edge isn't sharpened, the main reason is because I believe that it would eliminate a couple options that I needed to be able to provide to specific personnel that I train. I understand that some of the tactics or some of the utility that this blade has built into it may not be utilized at the skill level of the majority of people that carry this blade. But there are personnel that I train on a regular basis that carry this blade that may need the ability to place their hand on the false edge. I made this so that it can be as concealable as possible inside your hand. So meaning what I wanted was for skilled personnel to be able to draw this into their hand and place their finger on that false edge so that they can be a little bit more concealable when it's directly in front of said person that they're talking to, because this can be placed right over the top of their thigh, but it is hiding the fact that there's a blade directly behind it. I've done other videos that work on snap cuts, and in this position, the finger stop does maintain a solid grip. And if you pinch your thumb right behind that triangle, as well as here, it is a solid grip that allows you to make a very close cut that allows you to conceal. So that's one. The second grip that I teach is a pinch grip, where you take your finger and you roll it right here, and then you pinch on the inside just like so. And so that allows you to pull, and then your middle finger wraps directly underneath that finger stop. And now what happens is it looks like, or it is in the fashion that you would hold a razor blade. What this does is it once again creates a little bit of concealment, and from that point it allows you to cut by pulling or rotating. As far as the ability to do a back cut, I never really thought that this blade lacked that ability because of the hook and the triangle that is here. When it is drawn directly out of its sheath, you have the ability to use your pinky to roll the blade up, which allows you to back cut. Or you can use your thumb on the triangle to spin the blade very easily and then cut this backwards. So I never thought that I needed to have something that cut backwards as well as forward, because that action can be done with a rotation of my hand. Once again, I'm probably going to get people in the comments that talk about these small movements and the fact that it's unlikely that somebody is going to be able to do that in a stressful environment. But remember that I'm training individuals that is their entire job. This was designed for use in concealment for those within special operations or special forces, particularly individuals that have to do very, very complex tasks while in the middle of a gunfight. And so they are very capable of doing complex movements while their heart rate is at an extremely high pace. And so I understand that the average person may not be able to do these complex and small motor movements just like this while they are under duress. But once again, certain tactics and certain applications of the knife was designed for other individuals. Talking about the other comments, which are usually about the use of the edge weapon being a little bit more murdery than people would like, is something that I would like to talk about. And I'm going to use both of those grips to provide non-lethal options if that is more suitable for you. So let's get into that next topic. First off, a lot of times what happens is people just naturally assume that a lot of the training that I do will focus only on civilians trying to justify those actions to law enforcement directly after a self-defense claim. First off, a lot of the techniques that I do does fall under that category, and anytime that I teach that, I am immediately stating that you are going to have to justify the reason why you are using an edge weapon. Anytime that you use an edge weapon, it is going to have to fall under the validation of using lethal force, because this edge weapon, or any edge weapon, is going to be considered lethal force or lethal intent with that weapon. You're not going to be able to say that you're using an edge weapon for non-lethal purposes. So the force that you are matching or meeting this with has to be something that can be justified for use with a lethal weapon itself. And if that's the case, I don't understand where the complaint comes in as to me teaching how to end the life of the person that you're using the edge weapon with. First off, there is a high probability that even if you were to aim for that goal, that you would fall short of it. And if that happens, then you probably have caused a massive amount of trauma and still have done enough damage to stop that threat. If you just try to stop the threat and you fall short of that, you may not have done enough, and that person may be able to recover and be able to upgrade their situation so that they access a weapon or do more harm to you. And so that's the first thing. Second thing is, if you do want to target non-lethal areas, I do run that in my classes. I talk about 2 areas of the body that you can target that will usually cause psychological hesitation once you do trauma to it or attempt to do trauma to it. The first one is the face, and the second one is the groin. And so utilizing both of those grips, you have the ability to do a snap cut, and this would be in a scenario where I was able to get close enough and to overlap their arms. And so once I overlap one of the arms, I would snap cut right across the face. And the way that this works is I would aim for the top side corner of their skull. And once the blade is directly on that, I'm going to drag it across the body, across that face. So what happens is it goes from here and then down. My attempt is to drag this across the top of his skull until it penetrates into the eye socket, and then across the nose, hoping to shear most of that off and down the face. This is going to cause 2 things. One, it's going to cause immense bleeding. If I do hit the eye, then obviously there's going to be lack of sight, and then there's going to be the fact of disfigurement. This is where the psychological hesitation would come in. One, because of the amount of blood that comes off of that type of a cut, and then 2, this is not going to be something they're going to be able to recover from very easily. The next thing that would happen is right off of that cut is I would brace, and then I would immediately place the blade with that same grip towards the groin, cutting towards the top of, right below the belt, but right into the bladder, cutting into the groin, and then pulling directly out. In most cases, that isn't going to be a lethal cut, but it is going to cause massive trauma to the groin. And I don't really have to explain why that would cause psychological hesitation to continue the fight. The other thing that you can do, and this can be done with that pinch grip. Once again, this is just something that you would just place across and then cut. The other thing that can happen is you can target their hands to completely stop their ability to do the majority of actions. So the first thing is I can snap cut this hand, and as I'm snap cutting this hand, grabbing their wrist and burying the blade right into the center of their hand or their fist, rolling the blade out and then trying to cut through. So I'm trying to stab in the center, roll this out, and then fillet their hand so that their hand is now useless. Those are other targets that you can focus on as options, and those are non-lethal targets. Or they are areas that will allow you to slow down the attacker and then provide you with ample opportunity to target more lethal areas. But that pretty much covers both of those. First off, why there isn't a double edge on this, and then two, why I don't really cover a lot of non-lethal techniques with an edge weapon. So, hope you guys enjoyed that. Hope that provides some more knowledge. If you have any more questions, shoot them down in the comments below, and I hope to make videos on that. See you in the next video.